My guest at this time is a WWE veteran who is now one of the hottest free agents on the market. It is Ariya Daivari. Ari, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me here today.
Hey, man, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So you've had like a couple weeks here now away from WWE after several years with the company. How are you feeling? Where's your head at right now?
I'm feeling great, man. I know we just came out of the pandemic where we had some time off, but like we rarely get time off. We always joke that the only way to get time off in wrestling is to get injured. So the fact that I have 90 days to kind of like hang out and I'm still getting paid, it's kind of cool. So I'm just enjoying my time at home with my girlfriend. She's a school teacher, so she has the summer off right now. So we both have the summer off from work. So we're going to go on some vacations and just hang out.
Wow, that's nice how that lined up for you two.
Very nice. Yeah.
So I saw you've been tweeting about a bunch of different stuff, right? I always like to see what people are up to. You're obviously watching the AEW product right now. What do you think of what AEW is doing at the moment?
I think it's great. I think they are. It sounds funny to say, but like last time WWE always say like we're sports entertainment, we're not pro wrestling. Like to me, AEW is doing pro wrestling, and that's like what the fans love. That's what I love. So that's why I really been liking it. They've been doing pro wrestling very, very well.
How much was AEW talked about backstage when you were with the company?
Tons. Everybody was talking about, and it's not necessarily like just because it's AEW, but I feel like people who really care about the job, they usually keep up with everything that's going on. You'd be surprised that there are wrestlers who keep up with the independents and stuff like that. Like most of the guys like on 205 and NXT do that anyway because a lot of us are like from the independents, so we still have a lot of friends out there and stuff like that. But me personally and all my close friends, we kept up with all the wrestling products.
Yeah. Was there ever like I guess I'm wondering, like, was there ever a situation where it was like directly talked about, like, hey, I see they're doing this. Can we try doing something like that? Or was that taboo to kind of reference in creative speak what your competition was doing?
Yeah, no, I don't think I would have ever like went to Triple H or a writer and been like, hey, I saw this on AEW. Can we do this here? You know, that type of stuff. That's usually more chatter amongst the boys. When it came to like The Office and stuff like that, I usually didn't mention AEW or talk about it or stuff like that. I don't like after I got released, I sent out a tweet that was saying like Dante and Darius, those two kids in Top Flight on AEW, are doing really well. They're good friends of mine. You know, they're Minnesota guys. They trained here. And when they got signed, I wanted to tweet out like, hey, congratulations. I'm so happy for you guys. You deserve it, et cetera, et cetera. And but part of me is like, I really don't think I should like acknowledge AEW because I know WWE can be kind of shitty about it. So after I got released, that was one of the first like tweets I put out there because I said I hate having to pretend that we don't know these guys. And the thing is, a lot of people were kind of like, oh, that's such a crazy rule. I don't know if it's an official rule. I doubt it is, but I don't think it would help your career as a WWE wrestler if you're tweeting about and congratulating the competition.
Well, that's the thing is it's like you say, it's not like a written official rule, but was that stressful ever, kind of like not having full control to make decisions, like kind of day to day? Did that ever wear on you?
Yeah, I mean, they told us very early on, like when we first got hired, when we were going over like social media ethics, they just said, if you have to think about it, don't tweet it. So that was something where I took a second. I was like, should I tweet this? And I was like, well, if I have to think about it, then maybe I shouldn't. And it's like I said, it's super annoying because you're like, these are my friends. I just want to say congratulations to my friends, but you never know. All it takes is one person to get upset about it and then tell this person, then tell this person, and the whole story spirals out of control. And, you know, so you just try to avoid those situations if you can.
Well, you brought up your experience training here in the Midwest, and like I know we know a lot of the same people, Eric Cannon, and you know you were a big part of this community. Are you excited to get back to independent wrestling, especially now that like fans and stuff can be back around?
Yeah, super excited. Like that's a really good timing thing, obviously, with fans coming back. But in the last 5 years, there's so many like new names and new guys I see in the independents or new companies that are popping up. And I just feel like it's a whole new group of guys. Like the independent scene before I got signed to the WWE was now it's basically all those guys are in WWE or they're in Impact or New Japan or whatever. So the indies, it's a lot of brand new guys who from clips I've seen, they're doing really awesome stuff, and all these companies are drawing big houses, or they were drawing big houses beforehand. So I feel like it's just going to go back to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been pretty cool. I mean, I would like indie wrestling, even though it was like the starving artist thing, like it was a lot of fun. That's where some of my most fun memories, fun matches in my entire career come from some of the indie shows that I did. Some like you hear about some wrestlers in the past talking about some of their best matches or like these house shows that nobody's seen. Like I've had some of my best matches. I had a match with this guy named Ryan Cruz in this bar in North Dakota in front of like 30 some people. And we wrestled for like 30 minutes and it was so much fun. And to this day, it was like one of my favorite matches. So sometimes you have these little shows that are just so much fun just because of the atmosphere.
Yeah, and I would think that, after the training and just experience you've had, what is the last 5 years or so with WWE, 5-6 years, something like that.
Going on 5 years.
Going on 5. Okay, 5 years. I was right the first time. Shouldn't have pushed it. All right, shouldn't have pushed it. But anyway, the last 5 years, it's got to be exciting for you to be able to take this knowledge now back to the scene and like give back and work with these other talents with a whole new fresh set of eyes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was something we were doing on 205. Like anytime they had new talent in like NXT or new guys they want to try it on 205, the office would say we put them in the ring with either you or Tony because we know you guys can like control the match and make it good, because indie wrestling and WWE wrestling, they're very different. There's a lot of these rules we have to follow in WWE matches. So when a guy comes fresh off the indies, like I got to wrestle with Alex Zane, who's R.E. Sterling, when you're on the indies, you can, you do whatever you want. Yeah, he's really good. But there were just some things that we had to like work on a little bit just because I said, hey, this is just how this place operates. You just have to do it like this. Not me telling him what he can or cannot do. I'm just saying like, this is what they don't like. This is what they do like. So there's always like a little bit of a learning curve. And they always felt that me and Tony were the guys to go in there and teach these new guys that.
Yeah, and I recently talked with the Bollywood boys as well, and they said something very similar as well. But like, they just were like tag team. They were like, we got a lot.
Yeah.
We felt secure there, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. Like I said, I'm excited to take, like you were saying, excited to take what I've learned in WWE and now apply it to the independents. Because, I mean, when I was an independent wrestler, I always said like it was kind of easy. It was like, you do all your stuff, I'll do all my stuff, and then we'll call it a day. So I said, now, like it was that simple. But now in WWE, you think differently. Hey, is this too much? Is this not enough? And just small things like that I'm excited to bring to the independents and sometimes challenge some wrestlers. It can be a challenging thing for newer wrestlers coming to the WWE when they have to work within a certain time, because now they can't do all their stuff. They have to pick some of their best stuff and they have to sit there and, all right, would this be better? Would this make sense? So I've gotten a lot better at that over the 5 years, because sometimes when you can condense a match and make it a little bit shorter but hotter and quicker, sometimes I think that's better than doing a 30-40 minute like epically long match.
Yeah. And you talk about working with these talents as they're coming in, but you came in at one point yourself, right? I mean, you didn't get an NXT run, and it's no secret, right, that your brother had a very successful run in WWE before you came along.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel added pressure coming into that space because you kind of already had a family member that was in the business that had succeeded?
A little bit. And like the nice thing was that my brother has always had a very good reputation. So people were very excited to like, hey, we're excited to see Daivari's younger brother and stuff like that. So that was always really cool. But it was no extra pressure than I would put on myself in any other situation. I feel like the entire 205 Live roster, we had some pressure on us because we were the new kids on the block. There was 14 of us all of a sudden in the locker room taking up space. So we better not be out there shitting the bed. We better be doing good work, So it was a little bit of pressure, but it wasn't any different pressure that I put on myself from any other match I've ever done.
Okay, so after the Cruiserweight Classic, were you surprised that they had much more for you once the Cruiserweight Classic was over, or did you kind of go into the Cruiserweight Classic knowing there's more on the other side of this?
So I went into the Cruiserweight Classic thinking like, great, this is my chance. I'm going to show them what I can do, and that's going to lead to a full-time job for me. And after I did the first round, I got eliminated. Then they brought me back to do like an exhibition match, and that was cool. And that's when I started hearing about some guys getting contracts and stuff. So I went and talked to Canyon, who's the hires people down in NXT. And I asked him, I said, hey, is this leading to anything, or what can I do to maybe get a job full time? And he was like, we thought you did a great job. Maybe we'll have you back next year for the Cruiserweight Classic next year. And I was kind of like, shit. So I guess that's it. I go home, and then like a few weeks later, I get hit up to go do like an episode of NXT. Then a few weeks later, Monday Night Raw. Then a few weeks later, another Monday Night Raw. And but they weren't telling us anything. We were just being brought in. It was almost like it was like with all my other indie bookings, because I just happened to work on Mondays now for Raw, and every time we would ask, they would just be like, like we're still figuring things out. We don't know. So
wait. Time out real fast. So wait, this is when they had the short-lived like actual cruiserweight division on Raw, right? When you were like
when it first got started. So
yeah, okay, gotcha. I just want to make sure I got the timeline right.
Yeah. So I wrestled on Raw from like, when was I? We were doing like extra stuff with WWE for about 3-4 months without contracts. Like,
wow.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Yeah, and like that's like we did a pre-show. We did a Survivor Series. It was me, Gulak, and Tony against 3 other people. I can't remember who it was. Yeah. But we were like in the locker room. We're about to like wrestle on Survivor Series. I'm like, none of us have jobs here. Like that's really weird. My first time I wrestled on Raw when I got there, I had to go ask TR. I'm like, do I change an extra talent or do I go into the locker room? They're like, no, you're on the show. Go in the locker room. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like officially work here. So, but yeah, it was kind of a weird time. And anytime we asked about it a little bit further, they wouldn't like give us an answer. And then it was one time we finally, like 3 of us went up to Triple H and we're just like, hey, are we getting jobs here? And he was like, keep your Mondays open. We're like, okay. And then 2 days later, we all got our emails saying we were getting signed. It's one of those things that I think the company, like, it works slowly, so they don't want to just be like, yeah, we're going to sign you guys, but it's going to be in 6 months, something like that. So they just, as they're doing it, they kind of let you know. So we were left in the dark for a long time about it until we got the email that we were getting signed.
Dude, that's a wild story.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything like that about anybody's path anywhere near
Yeah.
reason. So, like, obviously you had a very non-traditional path in WWE. Do you kind of wish you'd have had like the standard kind of NXT call-up, run in NXT, chance to transition, or are you happy with the path you were given?
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I wasn't. A lot of us who were on 205 were all about 10 years on the job, and I've heard stories about when guys get signed to NXT, they have to like go back to being rookies. Like, I know there's a funny story. It was like when Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, and Kenta all got signed, the 3 of them had to like sit out and watch practice for like the first like couple weeks or whatever, a month or so. And it's kind of like, these guys are like veterans of this business. They're better than all these guys who are here, but they still have to watch practice because they're new to the WWE. So the fact that we got to skip some of that stuff and just go straight to Monday Night Raw, that was nice because I felt like they treat us a lot better on the main roster. Right away I felt like no, you guys are now part of the WWE. You're part of Monday Night Raw. You're part of the family. You're just like any other superstar. So that was pretty cool to jump right into that.
So did you sign a main roster contract or did you sign an NXT style contract with 205 Live?
So we signed NXT contracts. Like that was the original getting hired and all that stuff. I don't know if 205 Live was already in the works at that point, but we were on those like NXT contracts for like, I don't know, a month or so. And then we were just doing so much Raw stuff. And then 205 started because we used to do Monday Night Raw. And then 205 was filmed after SmackDown. So we were doing Raw and SmackDown loops basically every single week. So after a few weeks, they're like, all right, we got to switch this. And then after a few weeks, we all got switched to main roster deals. So it was always kind of funny when people always say like 205 is not main roster. I was like, we had main roster contracts. We had the exact same contracts as all the other guys on Raw and SmackDown. We traveled with Raw and SmackDown every single week. So 205 Live was a main roster show.
So when they started getting 205 Live going, did you see this as, because they tried to do some road shows? There was like 4 road shows.
Yeah.
Did you get the vibe that this was going to be a big thing, or did you have some concerns about the brand? What did you think?
No, I always knew it was going to be like a niche thing. Like when we used to do house shows with Monday Night Raw, and that was great. And don't get me wrong, the 205 Live house show loop that we did, it was awesome. The crowds were super hot. And clearly they were 205 fans or else they wouldn't have come, So they were a lot of fun to do and there's a good fan base there. But I don't think it ever would have became like a full-time traveling thing on its own because my brother, he was on that ECW brand. And I remember him telling me back then that when ECW used to do like just their house shows only, it's like it wouldn't really draw anything. And they had bigger names on ECW than we did on 205. So I didn't think it was something. I just thought hopefully we could just be touring with Raw or SmackDown more full time.
Which is kind of what it eventually became.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. How did you feel when they made Enzo the centerpiece of the
So at first everyone was kind of like, well, he's not really like a cruiserweight type wrestler, so how is this going to work out? But at the end of the day, like I think Vince McMahon really, really liked Enzo, despite what people say about him or his attitude and all that kind of stuff. Like Vince likes characters and Vince likes promos, and Enzo was both of those. So he was always going to make time for Enzo. So when he came to the show, and then a few of us got put with him, that was a good situation for us because I said they're always going to make time for Enzo. You know, sometimes we were wrestling on Raw for like 4 or 5 minutes and that was it. And people noticed that like when we started being with Enzo a few times, we like closed the show on Raw and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. Like if you can say whatever you want about his wrestling, but you can't deny the fact that he brought some star power to the show, and working with him was cool. And like I said, when management cares about someone a lot more, it just creates more opportunities for you.
Do you think he's got a bad rep? Should people give him a break? I know a lot of people have opinions about Enzo.
I always got along with him great. You know, I don't know. Like, I will say this: I don't know what went on before he came to 205 Live. I know he kind of alienated himself from the Raw locker room. So when he came to 205 Live, he was very like encouraging, just kind of like, hey guys, I'm here to help. I want to make the brand bigger. Like he was all about 205 Live. He wasn't a selfish guy or anything like that. He was always coming up with ideas and stuff to share with all of us and stuff like that. So I think he's just a very like kind of brash, in your face guy. And sometimes it rubs people the wrong way and they may not like it, but I always got along with him great.
Did Vince ever come out and show you all how to do the Enzo dance? Was he like, this is how you do it?
So there's a really popular like GIF that comes up like every couple months on my Twitter where it's like me, Enzo, Noam, Tony, and Gulak all doing the Enzo thing with him. And Enzo called that right off the bat. We were about to go out and he goes, hey, all you guys should line up and do the dance with me. He goes, I promise you it'll be like a viral GIF. And I believe he was the one who he might even mention like, and do it shitty too. Don't try to like do it just like me. Like do it like you're trying to copy me, which funny enough, all of us trying hard anyway, was still going to be shitty. But yeah, we went out there and we did it and I got a pop from the crowd. And then to this day, every couple weeks or every couple months, I'll get someone will send me that GIF on Twitter. I go, he was right. He really had his finger on the pulse when it came to like his act and his shtick. Like he knew what his fans would like and what would get a pop and stuff like that. He was a pretty creative person when it came to like promos and making small moments like that.